addiction and recovery is like one of my most passionate topics, because my wife's in recovery, and I got home from deployment in 2012 and she was all like about to die, like in like drug induced comas for 3 days at a time. And like, now she's been clean for 8 years, I think. Yeah. 8 years. So
what a badass. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, this is, I just love what you guys are doing, and proud to be a part of this community that you guys are building and have built. And would love, just thank you so much.
I met Chad at his Proving Ground exercise in Georgia, and I heard about Chad by listening to Andy Frisella's podcast. So I listened to that pretty regularly, and he had Chad on, and I heard Chad's story, and I was like, wow, this dude is amazing. Like what a story, and what an accomplishment he's doing. And then Chad was talking and giving his history and stuff, and talked about the Proving Ground. And I'm like, oh, what's the Proving Ground? And it was essentially this thing that you don't really know what it is, right? You're coming to Georgia and you're putting your life into Chad's hands for a few days. And you know it's going to involve physical exercise. You know it's going to involve getting out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself and stuff like that. And at the time in my life, I was like, that sounds like something I need. I've been sitting behind a computer at a desk. I'm kind of like a pent up energy, anxious, COVID, all this stuff. So I just said, whatever, I'm going to go. And I showed up, and it's a little bit secret. Like you don't really, you don't really talk about it. It's a very private thing. I can talk about some of the lessons from it, right? Chad, I don't want to, talk about anything that you don't want talked about, but it's a very intimate, amazing spiritual, physical, mental, emotional experience that really was a profound effect on me. And meeting Chad and the team was incredible, and just learning some lessons from him was an amazing experience. So Chad, thank you so much for letting me be part of the first Proving Ground. It was an honor. We met some amazing people there that I'm still in touch with. And it was an incredible experience in a short amount of time. So that's how I came to know Chad, and just honored that you sit here and talk with us.
Well, Dan, I'm telling you, man, it still blows my mind that people will go and sign up for these things that we create, right? Like the Proving Grounds and the basic course. But what happens is because it is such a non-traditional product, right? That we end up getting really, really special people, because it takes a special person to sign up for a mission with some crazy bearded backwoods Navy SEAL wizard hermit looking guy. It takes a very special person to come and sign up to spend a weekend with me and my team. And just because you don't have any details, you just have to roger up, you have to show up. And that has led me to places where I've been able to meet very special people. You're one of those men, Dan, very special men and women on both sides. You guys fill me up. I get to give to you guys, but you guys get to give back to me and allow me and my team to live out our mission statement, our mission for our lives, just like you guys are living out your mission for your lives, with the Recovery House and the programs that you guys create, which is such an essential piece of our society right now, man. It's so, the job that you guys are doing, there's literally nothing more important than the job that you guys are doing, man, because let me tell you what, addiction has touched my inner circle in a big way. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I learned. I'm going to tell you who I am in just a second. I'll tell you what I learned. Me growing up, lower middle class, whatever, society used to, I think, teach us as kids, and they themselves would look down on people that were struggling or dealing with addiction. And it's so beautiful to me that now that perspective is starting to change. And I understand now what it actually is. And I got to see my own wife. Like, I knew she was a beautiful, loving, amazing person. But when she was bound up in that battle that she was fighting, when she was bound up within that disease, man, like it was just bad. She couldn't, and I knew she was locked in there, man. And when she got clean, dude, by the grace of God, and because of people like you guys and programs like your program, it has saved. I wouldn't be here talking to you today. When I saw her break free from that, now she's got, I think, 8 years clean. We could dig more into that story later, but I'm just so thankful for what you guys are doing. I'm Chad Wright. Dan wanted me to tell you who I am. I'm sorry. Y'all can edit that whole.
That was a great intro.
I'm Chad Wright. I was born and raised in North Georgia, and I had one day, shortly after I had graduated high school, I was working a construction job here in North Georgia. I didn't like school. I didn't like the corporate thing. I didn't like any of that stuff. It didn't fit. I liked being outside. I I was gritty, man. I've always been gritty, right? Grit. I don't know if y'all understand what grit is, but you better figure it out, because it takes some grit to get through life, right? And I was always had a little grit in me, right? And I was working this construction job, and all of a sudden this banner pops up on the computer. This was in 2006. It said Navy SEALs, the hardest military training in the world. And I thought, you know what? I can sit here and do this job for the next rest of my life and make, $400 or $500 a week, live paycheck to paycheck, and never really get ahead, because I'm not going to go to school. That's out of the question. And I said, I got to do something, man. I got to do something special, right? And there's a lot of avenues you can go to do something special in life. This was the one for me. I feel like God created me to go this route, right? And it just appealed to me that it was the hardest thing. They claimed it was the hardest thing in the world, which it was. It was the one thing in my life that has lived up to and exceeded my expectations for how difficult it was portrayed to be, SEAL training as a whole. So I say, all right, I'm going to go do this thing. I go up to the recruiter, but I don't know how to swim. The jokers, I weighed 220 pounds. I didn't know how to swim either. I was lifting weights, man. I couldn't run. Look, man, the furthest I had ever swam was across the pond to get my fishing lure unhung off of a log over there, and they laughed me out of this place, dude. And so finally I keep coming back, and they tell me, all right, you got to pass this swimming, running, push-up, pull-up test. Took me months to get in shape to pass this thing. Finally passed the test, and I get my SEAL contract, join the Navy. Oh, get to the last day of boot camp in the Navy, and they pull me out of formation. I'm getting ready to go from boot camp to Navy SEAL training, buds. They pull me out of the formation. They say, Chad, you got to go up to medical, man. There's something wrong with your physical. And I said, all right. So I had left everything, by the way. I had nothing. I gave my truck to my brother. I had no possessions, left everything in order to pursue this goal that I set for myself. Walked into medical that day on the last day of Navy boot camp. And the dive medical officer proceeds to tell me that they found a 7-centimeter pericardial cyst on my heart. Now, the interesting thing about this cyst is it was an asymptomatic condition, and it was also a very rare condition. So the doctor basically says, hey, man, you can never be a SEAL, because we're worried when you go diving underwater as a combat diver, or you go way up in the air as a skydiver, the pressure change could potentially burst that cyst on your heart. But as long as you don't dive or jump, you're good, man. This thing's never going to give you any problems in your life. So we're not taking it. We're not removing it. That's not an option. We're going to send you out to the big Navy, and you'll never be able to be a SEAL, but go have a good career out in the big Navy. So all that I had aspired to do was literally taken from me in that single moment. And I was given a definitive answer that this is not going to be an option for you, Chad. Removing this thing surgically is not an option. You just got to find something else to do, buddy. I'm pat you on the back, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So I got out of the Navy and cut all ties with the Navy. Actually, I got out on an administrative discharge. It's basically a breach of contract because the Navy, I had a SEAL contract, but I could no longer be a SEAL because I wasn't qualified because of this heart condition. And I got out of the Navy and got back to my hometown here in North Georgia. Of course, everybody thought, all the dudes that I grew up with, that I said, oh yeah, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. And all of them, when I left, they were like, oh yeah, he'll be back. Right. There's no, dude, this is Chad, right? Even the Bible says a prophet has no honor in his hometown, man. This is Chad. We grew up with Chad. He can't be a SEAL. And so I showed back up a few months later. And of course, they're all like, oh, okay, he's back. You know, he quit. That's what everybody does. Everybody quits SEAL training. We started our SEAL training class with 300 men handpicked from American society. We graduated with 18 at the end of 6 months. Everybody quits, man. Don't let people blow smoke up your butt and say they got injured or they got rolled or no, they quit. That's just what people do. It's that hard. And so I get back and I call it what you want. Call it being young and naive or call it just being, I call it front sight focused or mission focused. There's something about the way my brain is wired. When I get focused on something, a task, a goal, whether it's business, marriage, lifestyle, running, whatever, I just, my world closes in and I get laser focused on that specific goal. And nothing can stop me. Nothing has ever stopped me before. By the grace of God, he gives me the strength, right? But nothing stops me. I get so focused on this thing. And that's the way I was on this path to become a SEAL. And so I start going around the Atlanta area, talking to any heart surgeon that I can get an appointment with and saying, will you take this thing off my heart? And they tell me the same thing that the Navy doctor tells me. Here's a night now, at this time, 19-year-old kid coming in here to ask for an elective open heart surgery so that he can hopefully go back into the Navy to try something that nobody makes it through anyways. All right. And here's the caveat to all this. Even if I had this heart surgery, there was no guarantee that if I had the cyst removed, that the Navy was gonna let me back in. There's no guarantee. It was a total gamble. I just knew that there was no other step forward other than getting this thing off my heart and then reassessing. Finally found a surgeon after about 3 or 4 appointments that was willing to perform this surgery. He was the leading heart surgeon in Atlanta at the time. He had never removed a pericardial cyst. So I have an appointment with him. He says, man, I understand what you want to do. I respect that. We're going to go in here. I'm going to cut your chest open. We're going to go in here and look at this thing and figure out a way to get it off. And I'm like, roger that, dude. Let's do it, man. So as tough as I might sound now to you guys, I do want you to know I did have a moment of doubt, and it was on the way to the hospital at 5:30 a.m. I remember writing, it was dark outside, leaving my home, going to the hospital to have this surgery performed. And it got real all of a sudden. You know, when you're riding to the hospital to get cut open, you guys have had surgeries before, you know, it gets real. And I looked over at my dad and I said, Dad, do you really think that I should do this? And he said, son, if you want to be a SEAL, you have no other choice. And so that was just, you know, reconfirming in me. And that's played out a lot of times, a lot of other times in my life and in ultra running in different scenarios. I try to boil the picture down or the results down to 2 possible outcomes. I'm either going to achieve my goal, or in the ultra running world, I'm going to break my body, right? I'm just going to shut my body down, or I'm going to finish the race. And that's, if I can get it down to those 2 options, like that day going to surgery, when my dad told me that, it's like, okay, well, I have 2 options. I can stay home and not have this surgery, but if I want to go, I have to go and do this. And that helps me a lot mentally, not thinking about all the different things that might happen, right? I just try to boil it down to this is what I have to do to go forward. And had the surgery. Yeah, had the surgery. Got it went good. Took me a few months to recover, quite obviously. The hardest part was trying to swim again, because when you swim in a pool, you have to stretch out real long. You have to get nice and flat and long in the water. Well, that would really pull on these chest muscles that had just been cut open, cut through. Yeah. So once they healed up, though, I went back to the Navy. They said, all right, we're going to let you back in, but we don't know if we're going to let you go to BUD/S. I said, okay, roger that. Let me back in. I went back in the Navy, stayed in a holding unit for about 6 months while Navy doctors reviewed my case. My civilian heart surgeon had put together a little packet that I presented to them. And they actually wrote a whole medical journal on my case because it was the first Naval Special Warfare candidate to ever have this condition, have it fixed, and then show back up. So you can just Google it online, Navy SEAL pericardial cyst, if you want to. If you're a science or medical person, you like that. It's pretty.
I'm not even sure I could spell that. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows my chest X-rays and the cyst and all. It's pretty cool. But
hey, Chad, I have a real quick question for you.
Go ahead, brother.
So there was no performance difference. It's not like your heart became stronger or anything. It's just you have this thing on it. So you went through that, and just for this. It wasn't to improve your heart. It was just because this was a requirement. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cyst was totally asymptomatic.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue, please.
No, yeah, man. No, I appreciate that question. And then, so yeah, man, I'm back in. I sit in a holding unit for 6 months. They finally review this case. And the crazy thing is when I came back in the Navy, that dive medical officer that had disqualified me on the last day of boot camp, I had got out of the Navy, had heart surgery, and I was back in he was still there at the same office. Like, he hadn't left that position yet. So it was all pretty quick. I mean, this was all within a year. And I showed back up, and he's like, I remember walking into his office, and he didn't know I was coming. And he didn't know that I had done this. And like, I walk into his office, and he's like, what, dude, what are you doing back here? Like, he remembered me because of the pericardial cyst. And I presented my case to him, and I think that he really appreciated what I had done more so than anyone else could understand, because he knew that this cyst was asymptomatic, and he also knew the severity and the risk involved in the surgery. And he knew, because he was the one that disqualified me, he knew that I did this purely so that I could have a chance to achieve what I wanted to achieve with that portion of my life. I think he really appreciated that. And I have a feeling behind the scenes, he probably helped me out quite a bit. Get me to a place where I was actually able to go to BUD/S. They're not going to send anyone to SEAL training unless they're totally fit from head to toe. If you have anything wrong with your body, your skeletal system, your muscular system, they're not going to send you, because they literally push you right to the point of death. Guys do die in SEAL training, but they don't want that to happen because it looks bad.
Right. Yeah.
That's
a hard sell.
Yeah, that's not a good selling point.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll tell you this whole story, and not to be cliche, you may have heard this before, but I'll just be straight up honest with you. If I would have went to SEAL training the first time before I had this heart surgery and this whole being, having everything taken from me and all this happening, I don't think I would have made it, to be totally honest with you. If I can honestly assess myself prior to that furnace of adversity that I had to go through in order to just toe the line, I do not think I would have made it through SEAL training. I really don't. Just to be honest with you, I don't think I had what it took mentally or physically, right? But when it was taken from me, it set me on fire, dude. I got so hungry and so front sight focused, and this process that I had to endure forced me to invest so much into this project, right? I had invested pain, I had invested money, I had invested difficulty, mentally challenging, going to have this surgery and being told no and being laughed at when I got back home by my peers and feeling like I let my family down and all this other, man, this process forced me to invest so much that when I finally towed the line, literally, I don't say this lightly, I would have died before I left from that training. They would have had to kill me. I don't say that lightly. I'm very familiar with death. I understand death. I understand what it means to say I would die for something, and I would have, but it was only because of that process that I had to endure leading me up to that point. You know, it's an interesting thing as you reflect back on that. I believe God creates us all for a very specific purpose within the body of Christ, right? So what God created Dan for, I can't do it, right? Your created purpose is so unique that no one else on earth can fill that purpose within his body, the body of Christ. And I look back on that, and if I can say I truly believe that God created me to become a SEAL and serve and have those experiences in that portion of my life, he knew the process that it was going to take to get me to the point that I was going to be able to get the job done. And he just had to take me through it. And I stuck with it long enough. If you stick with that process long enough, you actually get forged to a point that you cannot deviate from it. It's impossible to deviate from it. That's how I felt after I had this heart surgery. I had stuck with this process for so long. We as humans like to think that we're in control and that we always have free will, that, oh, after this heart surgery, I could have still just said, I'm going to change. No, there was no changing my mind. I could not deviate from this path. That is how I felt. And it's an awesome thing. You may only get that once or twice in your life, right? But it will happen. The reason most people don't reach that point is because before they get to that point, they quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel lucky. I've been on that same path for 27 years now. I'm still on that same path. I've not varied from it at all. So, but I think I'm lucky and unusual.
Yeah, awesome, man. 27 years, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you know, so I make it through SEAL. I know I'm talking a lot, guys. You guys stop me if
That's
I'm
good.
just walking you through the story,
No, it's
man.
good.
No, I love that. But I did have one quick question. Do you feel like you said, coming back, you're not sure you would have made it through the first time, but what you went through to get back, do you feel like that gave you an edge over your fellow SEAL people as far as wanting it more and putting more into it? And
100%.
more success? Yeah.
100%. I mean, I got awarded the Hard Charger Award of my class. I mean, you know, yeah, 100%. I mean, nobody there wanted it worse than me. You know, but yeah, I mean, God bless them, man. I'm thankful that they didn't all have to go what I had to go through, but nobody there wanted it worse than me. I can go ahead and tell you. So I went straight through, no issues, no roles, no performance issues, nothing. Went straight through training with the same class, Buds class 278, and graduated Buds SQT SEAL qualification training. You know, you actually train for 4 years as a SEAL before you ever deploy and go to combat. So it's a long journey to get to that point to where you're actually operating as a SEAL operator. I ended up spending about 12 total years in the Navy, had a successful career in the actual SEAL teams after training, got to deploy all over the world and really forge a new perspective on life and what's out there in the world. And I got to do some really cool stuff, help people along the way. And ultimately, in 2019, I was experiencing some trouble with my mental function, but most in particularly my balance I can remember on multiple occasions being out on the operation with night vision goggles on, and I would squat down and I would lose my balance and just fall over. And what I didn't realize, because I had not went to the doctor my entire SEAL career, because the op tempo is so high, you can't go to the doc. You don't have time to go to the doctor. You just constantly going, training, fighting, deploying. And I had neglected a lot of things that were within my health that were basically compiling upon themselves. And I ended up going to the doctor finally after having some significant issues and realizing that I had destroyed the vestibular system, which is the system within your inner ear that controls your balance. On my left side, I was completely deaf on my left side. Obviously, I knew that. I didn't tell anybody about it. But what it was is I was a breacher in the SEAL teams. A breacher builds bombs, and we breach walls or doors or whatever it may be in order to get the team into the target, whatever the target complex is. And you're in the front of the patrol, and you move up, you place your charge, and then you move back and you set that charge off with the blast wave that comes off of that explosion. Because I'm right-handed, I'm holding my weapon like this, right? And so my left side was always facing the explosion. And there's no telling how many thousands of blast waves that have hit me right here in the left side of my brain and face and head.
Thousands.
What's that?
Thousands?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, in breacher school alone, you're setting off. I imagine you probably set off right at, if not a little over 1,000 charges just in breacher school alone, which is 2 months long. And then you move on to your team, and obviously you're breaching all the time, and you're dealing with even larger charges when you move on and you're actually doing it operationally. So yes, I would say it easily would be in the thousands. We don't keep count. They do keep count now. Thankfully because of guys like me now, they make operators wear a sensor on their body armor that actually keeps count of how many blasts they're exposed to, right? And there's a lot of stuff being improved when revolving around TBI. Now I'm so thankful for that.
Wow. So then you get discharged because of this condition. And then how did you feel when they said your career is over? Was it your choice? Was it they were told you have to go? What happened?
Yeah. Or were you just ready?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a choice. I think maybe I could have navigated it in a way that I could have went and took some administrative position within the SEAL teams, which is not really, for me, it didn't feel worthwhile. They didn't leave you with much choice. Operationally, they basically said you don't need to be exposed to any more blasts, because if you do, we don't know what might happen. You might not be you anymore, right? And so they pushed me out with a medical retirement is what they call it at the end of my 12 years, which was a wonderful thing because I'm 100% disabled, and I do get retirement from the Navy for my service. And it's not much money, but it's enough money when you live as simple as I live that I can live off of it. I really can. I'm very thankful for that because I thought it was going to give me some time and make that transition easier. And in certain ways it did. But what I've began to understand is money's easy to make. It's the mission, your purpose, the purpose for your life, right? The mission that you're on, that is so much more important and so much more valuable than any amount of money. And it took me a little bit to realize that. So I thought, well, I'm getting medically retired. I've got this 10-acre farm here in Virginia. This is going to be nice. I finally get to kick back and be a regular person, for the first time in my adult life, And so I tried that for about a week, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't good. You know, I don't have my guys around me anymore. I don't have a mission. I feel empty. I feel lost, you know, and I went and did some contracting work for a company formerly called Blackwater, you know, doing the same stuff I was doing in the SEAL teams, thinking maybe that would help me transition, but all it was me running back to my past. That's all it was, right? And I was really, really lost and had no mission, had no purpose. That's what being lost is not having a mission or a purpose in life. We were designed to serve a purpose within the body of Christ, within our communities, within our societies. We have to have that as human beings. As much as we have to have food and water, we have to have a purpose.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. And well, and actually, I'll just interrupt real quick. So in treatment, in rehab, right? And like we get lost souls, right? We get people who were like just confused in life and doing what, you know, whatever was going on, letting life happen to them. And the point that they start to come back alive and start to get re-energized and whatever is when they establish their purpose again. You know, and maybe it's taking care of their kids, or maybe it's doing the thing they always wanted to do but never were brave enough to do, or whatever that thing is. Once you see that switch happen and they get their purpose again and they want to go for it, it becomes a lot easier to stay sober and in recovery because you have a reason to live, you know, and it's just so true. We see it all the time.
100%, brother. I mean, you know, and that purpose for me, a lot of times people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is, right? I mean, and purpose is something that, yeah, sometimes you're seeking for it, but you can't quite formulate what it is. And that's where I was at. I came to the place where I knew I was going to have to find a new purpose, but you can't just make something up, right? And I had already accomplished great things, you know, at a fairly young age. And so finding my purpose actually started with complete submission to God. Now, I didn't tell you, while I was serving in the SEAL teams, I got saved in 2012 on a deployment overseas. Some crazy stuff happened, led me to opening up my Bible and figuring out that, there's this guy named Jesus. He said he was the Son of God. He died on a cross. And there's actually some pretty significant evidence that says he did raise up from the dead. So I figured out, here's this guy that raised from the dead 2012 years ago. I got to do something about this. I got to figure this out. And I understood the gospel, and I chose to, whatever you want to call it, turn my life over to Jesus, become a Christian, I guess, if you want to call it. I'm very hesitant to use religious terms, but yeah, that happened. Also, got back home from that same deployment after being saved. My wife was really in the thick of her battle with the disease of addiction. My faith helped me so much through that journey, man. But
yeah, so what was that like? You went away and she was one way, and you came back and she was completely in a different way. Like, how long did it take you to figure that out? Or was it very obvious for you? Or what was that process like?
I'm going to tell you, I think that my wife, and this is obviously, she's given me permission to tell my perspective of our story together. Awesome. So my wife was using for years and years prior to me coming home from this deployment in 2012. But when you are married in the SEAL teams, you get to see each other maybe about 3 or 4 weekends out of the year. You're gone 300 days on average out of the year every year. So you just get to see each other very little. And I would come home from training trips or deployments, and we would get a weekend together. And if you notice something's a little off, that's not the time to talk about it. I mean, right. You know, you're lusting after each other. You're just enjoying the time, you know. And so it was maybe some signs that something was off, but nothing. It didn't seem like anything that was going to spiral out of control. And I was also very naive when it comes to the drug, the not only drugs, but addiction. I was totally naive to it. I had no idea about it. I didn't even think it could turn into a big issue.
You know, to stop. Okay.
Yeah, done. I was like, yeah, whatever. And when I did get home from this deployment in 2012, not only was she different, but I was different, because when I left, I was a straight up hell raiser in the teams, man. I mean, that's just who I was. I don't have to tell you the laundry list of sins that were a big part of my life and of my marriage. But you can name one, and I can guarantee you I was probably doing it. And when I got saved by the grace of God, he changed me overnight, brother. I mean, I got it all. I got it all in one night. Totally. I don't know how else to put it other than saying I was born again, that I was literally a new creation. And when that happened, I was totally different, but I was 5,000 miles away, and I'd talk to her on the phone and be like, man, this is awesome. But then we get back home. So not only am I different, but she's different, because dude, the disease of addiction had gotten very, very bad, to the point that it could no longer be brushed under the rug, because it had gotten to the point that she knew and I knew that she wasn't going to make it much longer.
So what was she using, real quick, just for everyone to listen? Like, what drugs was she on?
It was, of course, it was all pills. All pills. I think it was the, like the benzos mixed with the pain medication. There's a dang pill out there called tramadol that for the longest time, people didn't think tramadol, there was nothing to it. I guess doctors would hand it out like candy. She'd take 30 or 40 of those in a day, son. And like piling all the other pills on top, because we had health insurance. I was in the military. She could go to any doctor she wanted, man. So y'all know, I mean, everybody listening to this knows how this works. You just go from doctor to doctor, and
especially in the area you guys were at too, Florida, Georgia, back then in 2011,
oh my
2012.
gosh, dude.
That was like the highlight of like doctor shopping and pill farms and pill mills.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if you want to look at one good thing about this, at least we had health insurance, and not that heroin is any worse than pills, but at least it kept her off the street, right?
True.
I mean, that's one, I guess one good thing that we had going for us. But
So you come home, you have this amazing, you had an intense, steel career, and you get, you get saved, by Jesus, and you're coming like a totally different person, and you walk in, and she's in the grips of benzo and opiate addiction.
Yeah.
Something that you were like totally, oblivious to. And then, so what happens? Like, does she tell you it right away? Does she hide from it? How does that go?
Oh, she didn't tell me about it, but I mean, she didn't have to tell me. She could barely talk or drive. Like, we'd be driving somewhere and she'd be like, just out, just like going off the road, man.
Wow.
And so like, I was like, okay. And then sometimes, I mean, she would be in bed for like 3 days at a time or something. Like, I'd have to call my buddies to say, hey, go knock on my door and get her up, make sure she's still alive. Like, and then, so at that point, eventually she never really came out and told me. She couldn't hide it. She maybe told me that she was having some issues, but you guys know how it is. This was the dynamic. She would claim that she had severe stomach pain. So right. I thought something was wrong with her. And so then she would go get pain medication. And then I would just be like, well, she has to take this because she has stomach pain. Right? I didn't this is how stupid I was, guys. I didn't know. But finally, yeah, I didn't know, man. And like, I'm hurting for my wife because You know, I think she's got this chronic pain that she's dealing with. Man, I wish we could get some kind of diagnosis. Of course, there was no diagnosis because there was no problem. It was a really, really tough time. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Finally, we were out on the beach on I think it was actually her birthday. And I had just been praying, man. That's all I could do. I was so helpless. There was nothing that I could tell her to convince her to stop doing this. Even if I knew even the fullness of what was going on, there was nothing I could have said. And we were out on the beach one day, and she just broke down crying, and she told me everything. She told me everything. And she said that she wanted to get clean. And I have I don't know. Obviously, I have to contribute that to prayer, the grace of God, him honoring my newfound relationship with him, and now bringing my family back into wholeness. You know, and she says she wants to get clean, and then we start that journey. And you want to talk about somebody like us. Well, you decide, your spouse decides she wants to get clean, but then the next thing you're like, where do you even go to get treatment? We didn't even know where to go to get treatment. That's why I love what you guys are doing. You guys have a dang podcast, man. This is perfect. Yeah. Because back then you didn't know where to go. And finally we found a place, the Farley Center, up in Williamsburg, Virginia is where she went. And she went there. I had to go to my SEAL team, and tell them what was happening. And of course that was tough, because I basically had to say, hey, SEAL team, my wife decided she wants to get off. First, she's an addict. She decides she wants to get clean. I can't go and be a SEAL anymore. I have to be home, because she's in this inpatient place for a long time. Like, we had dogs, chickens. I have to be home.
Yeah.
That was tough, man.
So that was how your career was pretty much wrapped up? Or you just stopped? So at that point you stopped working like you were working before, and you stayed?
Yeah, so I stopped operating at that point, and then I became a SEAL instructor, which was a wonderful blessing, because I learned a lot there at the later end of my career as an instructor. For that last about 3 years, as an instructor was a great gift to me, because I learned that I was passionate about teaching, right? Mm-hmm. And so, man, I haven't told that story in a long time, but
okay, so she recovers, and it's a process, but she gets out of the treatment center, she comes home, and things are okay and slowly getting better. And is that how it is, or is there a lot of ups and downs, or did she kind of stay on the track when she got back?
Oh no, there's ups and downs, son. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, you can, of course, I got to learn a lot through the process, because I would go to her recovery center, and once a week we would have the family time, and I'd get to be in there with her and the people that she was there with, and her counselors were teaching me about what they were doing. And I learned, I guess, that this wasn't just a end all be all, right? So
the one and done.
The one and done, yeah. So when she got out, there were a lot of ups and downs. I mean, there were relapses. There were hard times. I remember specifically, it was so funny. I say funny. It's funny looking back on it now. I remember she got out, and one of the first days that she had got back home, she was clean at that point. She hadn't relapsed, and we went out to ride bicycles on a trail. And I remember she looked back at me, and she said, "This is it. This is life." And I was like, "Yeah, this is what life is. It's we come out here, we get to ride our bicycles and see this beautiful nature, and then you go home and you got dishes to wash, and you got work to do, and like, you know, there's, and I just, that was an epiphany for me. Like, this was her first time experiencing what life really was as an adult.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem too exciting to her.
No,
like,
yeah.
She was like, this is all it, what?
Yeah, it's different when you're high, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, yeah, you're just in you're in a whole different reality, really, I guess, is what was happening. And I can't see it from her perspective, but that was my understanding of it. But
It's definitely
we
part
stayed
of the
together.
trap. It's part of the trap.
What?
You know, this is boring. Being sober is boring, but being
Yep.
high is so much fun. So it's part of the trap of getting sober, is learning how to have fun being sober. But that comes
Wow,
later.
man, that's awesome.
Right, because you're dependent upon a substance, taking a pill or something to give you your, you know, entertainment, your stimulation. And when you don't have that and you're not being stimulated by the world, you got to learn how to re-engage with the world again, so that you then are stimulated by what's there. You know, you don't see it at first. You don't see the beauty, or you don't see the nature. You don't feel it because you've just been used to taking a substance for your stimulation.
And this is why I'm so, you know, it really ticks me off, man, when I see, and look, man, this is just me. You guys don't have to have the same opinion as me, but I see guys like this Joe Rogan guy, and even some other big influencers that promote smoking weed, that promote these psychedelic drugs, and promote all this stuff. And I'm like, are you serious, dude? Like, you are obviously an unhappy person. If you need to get high to experience the fullness of life that life has to offer, like, you need to step back and think about that, man. And and everybody, you know, this whole thing it's front and center in our society, and it shows me that all these people that think that they've got it all figured out, they don't got it figured out, man. Because I don't need any substance to experience the fullness of life every single day, man. And for these guys that are influencers to promote things like that, it's so screwed up, man, because people are looking up to these influencers. And to me, I'm gonna go on his podcast one day, and I'm gonna ream him for that.
Yeah, that would be my favorite episode ever. I'm glad you
Don't worry, it's
that,
coming.
though.
It would be good. It would be good listening.
I would venture.
How do
to
y'all
say
feel about that?
Dude, I was about to say, I would venture to say we all feel the exact same way. I have a big button on that as well. And I get that it's their experience that they need or would prefer to have weed or mushrooms to experience the fullness of life. It's a shortcut. It's a hack. I get that it's easier to do that. Whereas you put yourself, what comes up for me, Chad, is your spiritual experience in the Marines with God. Like, you didn't need drugs for that. And the experience that you had was as full and as life-changing as it gets. And you didn't need anything to have that. So, but it did take a lot of work and a lot of life and a lot of ups and downs to have it. So it's just kind of my view on it. It's the simple, like, taking the easy way, and that doesn't produce much results.
Yeah. And just to add to what Dallas is saying, I've been asked a few times on some podcasts I've been on, like what my stance or viewpoint is. And I'm never going to give somebody the okay to do that, because it might be okay for you or that individual person, but for another person, just smoking pot might lead to heroin. It might lead to way harder things. And by you saying it's okay to do this one thing, you never know when that slippery slope is they're going to do that one thing. And for them, it ends up being a whole lot worse. So, you know, where do you draw the line? What is okay? What isn't okay? What's okay for some person? What's not okay for some person? It's your way is the best way by far, the way we all operate.
Yeah. And I love that you guys point out the fact that it's a shortcut. Look, I get high as a kite. I hallucinate. I see the craziest things at the end of a 30-hour long 106-mile foot race. It takes a freaking work, man. You want to have a psychedelic experience? Go run 100-mile foot race through the mountains. I can promise you, when you get to the end of it, you are going to be seeing the craziest stuff. You're going to be having a blast, man. Now, your body's going to hurt as soon as you stop and slow down and take a wrap off. But, you're right, man. You can get the fullness of life if you're willing to put in the work. And I'm so sick of seeing people take shortcuts. People think that there's a secret to any of this. I haven't even talked about my running. I mean, there's no secret to it. It's the work, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so let's, because I got some things up in the proving ground, lessons that I had that we want to get to. So let's kind of get into that. So when did the running start? So we left off where your wife was going through her ups and downs, all that kind of stuff, up to the proving ground, or the 3 of 7 project that you founded. So at what point did you start running for 50 miles at a time or whatever? Like, how did that happen?
I started running about, I'm going to say about 8 months before I got out of the Navy. So I knew my SEAL career was going to come to an end. And I knew that I was going to need something in my life that was going to challenge me on a high level personally. So I've enjoyed running throughout my career in the SEAL teams. And one of my teammates said, "Hey, there's this race in the mountains of Virginia, and it's 50 miles long." Of course, I didn't think that. I had never heard of anybody running that far. And I said, "Well, all right, man, we'll go and do it." And we went and did this race, and it literally obliterated me. Like, I mean,
did you finish it? Were you able
Oh yeah.
How long does that take?
I think I finished that 50 miler in, it was 9 or 10 hours probably.
Wow. Straight running.
Straight running. Yeah. And now, I mean, I look at a 50 miler as a sprint, but when you're first getting started, it's a big achievement. And I'll never forget, after that, I went and ran another 50 miler, and I got like 6th place or something. And my buddy that I had ran the first one with, he said, "Chad, you can actually be good at this, man, if you want to pursue this." And I said, "Yeah, I'm enjoying it." And yeah, I did pretty good. This was my only second one. And I just continued to pursue it. And it was challenging me on a high level. And really what running has become for me, ultra running in particular, I've gotten to the point now that if I go run a race, if I don't win it, I'm going to be in the top 5. I'll take all comers. I don't care who you are. That we got a race coming up in June, the Mid-State Mile. I won it last year. It's a last man standing race. It keeps going until only one person's left. We got runners crazy. Yeah, I mean, we got runners coming from all over the world, man, or from all over the nation, because they want to beat me. Because I won it last year. And now I'm some big, social media guy, whatever, and I don't believe that anybody in the world can beat me at that race.
What about David Goggins?
Oh, don't get me started on that guy.
A can of worms just got opened right now. What just happened?
Man, I try to be respectful to all people. I think the major issue with this guy, I have a few issues with this guy's message. One issue is the way he portrays the SEAL teams. You know why he wasn't a good SEAL? Because he could not work as a team member. He's an individual, and that's an issue in my book.
I can see that.
Yeah. He could never assimilate into a team. And for society to look up to someone that can't assimilate into a team, that's a bad mentor to have. All right. And so that, and also the whole message of just stay hard and just, be tough all the time. It's like, dude, you don't have to blow smoke up my butt, dude. I know what it's like, man. When life freaking gets hard, yeah, you got to have a place inside of you where you can go to and get the job done. But when that job is done, you got to be able to come home and love your wife, your husband, your family members. You got to be able to be a normal dude. Sit down, eat some dang ice cream, man. Whatever you want to do. But you got to have that place like Dan has. Dan's got that. I seen Dan coming up a freaking flight of stairs. He couldn't even walk. He was still going. Dan has a place inside of him that he can go to get the freaking job done, man. But guess what? When Dan got back home, I hope to God he took a wrap off and said that was an awesome accomplishment. I'm gonna take a day or two to rest. I'm gonna love on Angie a little bit. I'm just gonna be a regular dude, man. And so that's my thing is be hard when it gets hard. Be hard when life gets hard, right? But you don't have to do that all the time. It's so unsustainable and it sets people up for failure. It really does.
There's got to be some sort of balance or moderation. It can't be all or nothing for anything.
That's right.
And I will say, he came straight into work. We had our 2-day quarterly annual retreat. So he went right back into work. Dan didn't get that.
I will tell you this.
He took the next weekend off. Don't worry.
Check this out, though. I'm going to tell this story real quick. Okay. So when I got done with the proving ground, I went to Atlanta airport to fly home, right? We had the day, we ended it off and we all hugged and went our separate ways. And I went to Atlanta airport to fly home. And I was so out of it that I looked on my boarding pass and it said that my seat was like B24. So I went to gate B24 and sat down and passed out. Boom. I was out like a light. I was like, oh, I got to wait 3 hours. This sucks. Boom. 3 hours went in a second. And so someone's calling on the loudspeaker, blah, 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 and it wakes me up and I get drool. Like I was out like a light. And I wake up and I look at my boarding pass and I realize I am nowhere near where I need to be and my flight's about to board. So I like shake off the cobwebs and run across the airport. I was there 3 hours early and I'm sprinting across the airport to try to make my plane because I was so exhausted and out of it. And I just had such an intense experience that I just barely made it on the plane.
Yeah, man.
And then I slept on the whole plane, the whole, I think I was nonstop because I was out the whole time. I was exhausted, but it was amazing. I mean, it was such an intense experience. I want to get into that as well.
And it was great because he came back so fired up. Like I said, he came right into our annual meeting. He was so fired up with what he had learned with you and the tools and shared his experience with our group that it fired everybody else up to take on the year and do all the things and like how we could integrate a lot of what he learned into Elevate going forward, especially with our exec team. He was on fire. It was awesome.
Yeah, man, I want to send my management team to the proving grounds. You know what I mean? Like that's what I come back thinking, like this is some real deal leadership life training that I want my guys to like experience.
Well, brother, we'd love to have them, man. And registration for 3 Troop 2022, January 2022 is open on the website. So that's there. And I just want to goes back, Dan, that story in the story of our friendship goes back to the original question I was about to answer before Angie had to lure me in with a dang David Goggins comment.
If I had known.
Look, back to my original train of thought, what running has become for me, and I run hard, and I do this because I feel like if a man like Dan is going to invest his money and his time into coming out and spending time with me, right? I need to be doing something in my own personal life that essentially qualifies me to be able to be Dan's instructor for a weekend. Like if I would have just retired from the SEAL teams and just stopped there, to me, I would not be doing my students justice, right? So ultra running has become for me a thing that I can go and do, that I can really dig deep within myself. I can cleanse myself. I can build new content. I can learn new lessons about life and about myself. And I hope that my brothers and sisters that watch me and that trust me with their time, I hope that I'm in a way earning that right. And if I ever stop earning that right, stop listening to me. Don't come and do what I do. And if you have someone in your life that you look up to as maybe your mentor or something like this or that, and they're not doing something on a regular basis to earn that right, to be someone that you look up to or someone that you want to learn from, maybe not even look up to, because Dan doesn't look up to me. Dan's a hard dude. We and Dan can learn from each other. All right. So if it's somebody that you want to learn from, make sure that you maybe analyze them a little bit and say, what is this dude doing? Right? Why should I go and learn from him? And that's what running has become to me. One aspect. Oh, go back to Joe Rogan. What the crap has Joe Rogan done? He's a freaking comedian. Why am I going to try to learn from this guy? He's a comedian and he has a lot of money. How can he mentor me? So that running, going out and running a race like the Mid-State Mile and grinding myself just down to nothing, man. It's like, okay, I hope my brothers and sisters see this. I'm doing it for them. And that's what it is to me now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, at the proving ground, everyone was terrified of disappointing you, because they knew that you weren't asking us to do anything you couldn't do with your eyes closed and blindfolded, one hand behind your back. And so if we were going to complain or whatever, that wasn't going to fly. And that's what we all signed up for, you know, and we all kicked each other in the butt, and we all also picked each other up when we were down. And that was such a cool experience. Talk about a team, right? I mean, you're talking, we did some exercises, you know, like in the middle of the night. I think, you know, I won't get into that, but some drills in the middle of the night with headlamps on in very cold conditions. That was intense. But it was teamwork. And it was like, we were a chaotic mess of individuals, like, you know, and we were all exhausted and, you know, just freaking out. And I'm like, you know, and then within a short amount of time, we are a team. And that was an incredible, important lesson. And like, you get it. Like, it's like wow, okay. So when we're all trying to do things ourselves as individuals, it's a lot harder than when we all like come together and do something. And like, it was a powerful lesson.
100%, brother. It's impossible. It isn't that mission at the proving ground specifically, you know, Dan, because you know now what happens. It is impossible to do that by yourself. You just simply can't do it. Right. Yeah. And that goes back again to that mindset of being an individual, why that's dangerous and why that's going to limit you as a human being for the rest of your life, until you can get out of that mindset, until you can start thinking like a team member or a teammate or a team leader, whatever position you're in. You'll be limited by that individualistic mindset.
So Chad, how does that work with you being such a team guy, which I love and appreciate? I'm a huge team person too, but running, ultra marathon running is a very solo type activity. How do those two things, how do you have such a passion for that, but it's not such a team thing?
Well, it's a solo activity until you get about 80, 90, 100, 120 miles deep, right? And that's the reason I ultra run, particularly instead of running a fast marathon or 10K, because ultra running is a team effort. I can tell you, last year at the Mid-State Mile, I ran for 30 hours straight, just over 35,000 feet of climbing and descent. So essentially, I ran 30 hours straight up Everest from sea level and back down the other side, would be the equivalent, right? And there was a team of people that were there serving me, fueling me, making sure that I was good, pushing me. And in turn, I was serving them by staying out there and grinding, because I was their racehorse, right? I was their racehorse. They were my handlers. We were a team. Anytime, if there would have been any friction between my relationship with my team that day or their relationship with me, if they thought I wasn't giving it all I had and I was cheating them as their racehorse, that would have everything would have fell apart, right? So it is, ultra running is a team effort for sure. And then most especially now with 3 of 7 project, and now I have men like Dan in my life. I have other men and women that I have met at the basic course and at the proving grounds that we run. Now there's a team and community building around our business. Now in my business model is the same business model Jesus Christ used. Everyone that comes as part of our event, they are part of the body of 3 of 7 project, my business, right? And we believe in force multiplier. So you come out to the proving grounds, we're going to train you up, give you everything that we've got. Now you're the part of the body of 3 of 7 project. Now I want to send you out into the world, and my return on investment is you going out into the world and sharing the important parts of the mission with the people on your team or in your community or the people that you can influence. So it's a force multiplier. It's the same thing Jesus Christ did, and it worked. He literally, some poor Jewish guy and a bunch of redneck fishermen, turned the freaking world upside down with this business model.
So Chad, what is 3 of 7? What does that originate from or come from? Sorry if I should know this, but what does that come from?
No, man, not most people don't know it. I mean, a lot of people come out to our events, don't even know what it is. And it's a very vague, I guess, poor thing to name a business, but I like it because it generates conversation, right?
Yeah, here we are.
So, I'm really a numbers guy. I pay attention to numbers in my life. I think numbers have meanings, even something as simple as my Buds class number 278. You see numbers pop up in different places, and not saying that I don't think that this is something that you should just like become overwhelmed with, right? But I like numbers, and the 3 is representative of the 3 aspects of us as human beings. So I believe we were created in the likeness and image of God. God is a triune being, God the Father, the Son, which is Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, which lives within us. We are also triune beings, that we have our body, our flesh, right? Our soul is our mind, will, and emotions, and our spirit is the part that sets us apart or makes us different from every other animal on earth, is that spirit, right? We spend an hour describing spirit, but let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a deer standing on a hilltop watching a magnificent sunset? They can't appreciate it, man. Other animals cannot appreciate creation. They just are. They are part of creation, but they cannot see the magnificence or the intelligent design of it, right? So that spiritual aspect of us, that's the eternal part of us that connects us with our creator. So at 3 of 7 project, we try to help everyone find ways to master, nourish, and maintain their body, their soul, which is their mind, will, and emotions, and their spirit, their spiritual life, in order to achieve the 7. The 7 is the biblical number for completion. Anytime in the Bible something happens 7 times, it's totally complete. All this mess right here was created in how many days?
7.
On the 7th day, it was done, right? They marched around the walls of Jericho. How many times? 7 times, and they fell to the ground. Anytime you see that number 7 in the Bible, you know it's something that it's totally complete. So if we can focus on those 3 aspects of us. For me, what does that look like? My spirit, every morning I give the first fruits of my day to God, and that is by spending time in his word or meditating. If you want to call it that, I call it prayer. All right, that's every morning. As soon as I get done with that time, I go out and I train, right? That's my body, right? And a lot of times the way that I train I'm actually training my soul at the same time, because maybe I don't want to go train that morning.
Oh yeah.
But guess what? I got to get up and go train, man. And there you're bringing your soul, your will, what you want to do, you're bringing that into subjection, right? And get done training, and then I work. And my work is a lot about the soul. The 3 to 7 podcast, we talk a lot about mindset stuff, right? At the Proving Grounds, we talk a lot about mindset. That is the soul, essentially, is all that mindset stuff. It's encompassed by the soul. So that's what my day looks like every day. I mean, and I'm intentional about hitting all 3 aspects of me to be as complete as I can possibly be for you guys, because you asked me to come on your podcast. So I owe you that.
Well, and
we
it's
are
really
thankful for that.
interesting. It's really interesting. So you talk about mindset, and it's like most people think, and look, I'm not a runner. I barely run. In fact, when I did the Proving Ground, I haven't run a mile since high school. That's not me at all. But mindset, it really wasn't. And I learned this in the Proving Ground, and many people who said they were runners and stuff, they're like, it's mental. It's fit. Yes, of course it's physical. Your feet are going like this and your body's banging around, all that kind of stuff. But it's all mental. You have to have the mindset to get it done. And It's like, I mean, Angie and Dallas are big CrossFitters. And so, and they talk about it too. Like, you got to be just mentally ready to experience that tough workout and get through it. And it's not how strong you are, it's how mentally tough you are to get through it.
And mindset is very, very simple, guys. Let me just give you real quick the 3 pillars of my mindset that get me through every ultra marathon, that have got me through my marriage, that have got me, Dan, you've heard these before, got me through any hard thing I've ever done in my life. Very, very simple. This is so simple that you're going to try to nuke it. If you're listening to this show, you're going to try to nuke this, but it's so simple. That's just the way my mind works. The first one is being patient. Being patient with 3 things: that process that we're all enduring, right? Being patient with our teammates, the people that you're surrounded by, being patient with yourself when you screw stuff up, because you're going to screw stuff up, but you got to be patient with yourself. Being present. When I won that mid-state mile race last year, it came down to me and one other guy, Greg Armstrong. Greg ran for the American National Ultra Running Team. He had a resume that would put mine to shame. I didn't think I could beat him until a single moment. He came to me when we were about, I don't know how, 90 miles into this race or something. And he said, Chad, we got 6 hours till we reach 100 miles. And I just looked at him and smiled, because I knew in that moment that victory was mine, that he could not beat me anymore, because he was no longer present, right? I was focused on the mile that I had to run in that moment in order to stay in the race. He was looking 6 hours or however many hours ahead at what was potentially coming, all right? Wow. And I knew in that moment he couldn't beat me. And there was actually a physical response to that. When he overextended himself mentally, his body started to shut down. And he got to the point that he could no longer even walk, and he collapsed across the finish line. Wow. So being patient, being present, and being deliberate about not only your actions, the things that you actually do in an ultra run. If I'm not deliberate about my steps and I step in a hole, or you're not deliberate at CrossFit about a box jump and you slam your shin in the side of the box, or you twist your knee wrong, you're out of the game, right? Yep. That's me, man. But also being deliberate about your words. Obviously, my ears perk up. Dan said, oh, I'm not a runner. Man, that's bullcrap, man. You are whatever you want to be, dude. Being deliberate. I mean, super deliberate. I don't cuss. Y'all realize that, right? Obviously,
I picked up on it.
Yeah, y'all know I'm a Jesus man, but it ain't because I'm a Jesus man. It's because these are minor things, right, that are going to take you from being average to being freaking extraordinary, to being better than everyone else around you. It's just a little bit. This little thing like cursing, right? None of those curse words in and of themselves have a positive meaning. They're not speaking any life into your situations. They're actually dragging you down. You may look, y'all think I'm crazy? Look, you want to be elite? You make these little bitty changes, right? Something like that, being very conscious and deliberate about the things that you allow to come out of your mouth. Not only was this proven in combat and ultra running, this is biblical. Being deliberate about the input, hyper aware of what you're allowing to come in. So not only what's going out, but what you're allowing to come in. All right, that's extremely important. Those are the three things that have forged that. I guess those are the foundations of my mindset, right? So just to give you guys a tangible picture, when me and Dan talk about mindset, these are the things that we're talking about: building, forging, practicing, and enhancing. Things as simple as patient, being present, being deliberate, right?
Yeah. And it's so interesting how being patient, being present, and being deliberate in your actions, your thoughts, your intentions is such a good parallel for being sober, right? For recovery. Because we do mindfulness at Elevate, and we get people to stop and be present and, become aware of what's going on, stop the race in their head and all that kind of stuff. They have to be patient. They all want to get into rehab and get out 2 weeks later and go on and live with their life. They can't. They got work to do. They got to be patient. It's going to take a while. They have to be deliberate with how they communicate with their family. It's got to be different. They've got to make amends. They've got to, they got to own their experience. And so I think the three pillars are just so relevant for running 100 miles at a time or more, but also, living a life of recovery. It's those things are like the foundational tools of success.
Yes.
Yeah, when you said deliberate and being aware of what's coming in, it also reminded me of, recognizing toxicness that is influencing you. And I like that half of the deliberate that you talked about, because obviously we can be deliberate in our actions and thoughts, but are we being deliberate about what's coming in and creating, unease in our bodies and minds? So I love that part too, because you have to address the toxicity, at least, when you're getting sober, to recognize what it is and where it's coming from.
100%. Truth is truth, right? We can apply truth
Yes.
to all aspects of our life.
Absolutely.
100%.
So I took a note here of this thing that I was, so when you're doing the proving ground, you're doing all this physical stuff, you're doing this psychological stuff, you're doing all this crazy stuff. I won't get into it. You got to go there. But there is and I didn't know this, and of course, how could I have known it? Because I didn't know anything about it. But a lot of it is also sitting in a room and talking and discussing some very intense things, which I was like, whoa, this is intense. It was amazing. And one of these things that you said, and I think I asked you a question. I don't even remember what I asked, but I was like, dude, you've been a Navy SEAL, you've been in combat, you've been in like the gnarliest, situations and stuff like that. Like what was it that, how do you overcome fear and fearing, failure, like all that stuff that holds people back? And then how does that relate into your life? And you said something, I'm probably not going to do it justice, but you said, look, you can set yourself up so that you never fail. You always succeed. And the way that you do that is that you set a standard for yourself and you live up to that standard honestly and truthfully. Now, you may not win the race, but you will finish the race if your standard is to run it and finish it. And so what happens is that people think in life, oh, well, I got to win. And if I don't win, I failed. Well, no, you didn't fail. You failed when you quit. Right. And it was that difference of like, if you don't quit, you're not failing. And I was like, and I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but in my mind, I was like, wow. So anything you want to do in your life, as long as you set that standard of not quitting and you don't, you're not failing. You may not be the best guitar player in the world or run the best race or win, but you are comparing yourself to yourself and you're holding that standard. And it's only when people quit and say, I'm not good enough, I quit, that then they fail. And that's when all the negative emotions and all those kinds of things come in. And I think you gave an example of running one of these ultra marathons, and it's like I don't know what it was, 100-mile race or whatever. And you knew like 2 hours in of this massive 40-hour race or whatever it was, you knew you weren't going to win, but you ran it anyway. And you could have faked an injury and everyone would have believed you and all that kind of stuff, but you didn't. And you ran it to the end knowing you weren't going to win it because that was the standard. And I was like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, it's a totally different perspective on life when you talk about living to a standard versus a result. When you live to a standard, The standard is what is important, and the results can fall where they may. And let's talk about what it means to not quit. Not quitting doesn't mean that you're always going to reach your objective. Not quitting means that you are going to go as hard and as far, as fast as you can possibly go, right? Until something either completely stops you in ultra running, your body shuts down, or something, an obstacle's placed before you that you have to find a way around it, right? So not quitting doesn't mean you're going to follow a straight line from where you are to your objective. And you have to be honest. You can't judge other people, even in ultra running. If somebody bows out of a race, they have to judge themselves. You are your own judge when it comes to not quitting, because only you know if that's as far as you could possibly go, right? And if you feel good about that, then you didn't quit, man. You just went as far and as hard as you could possibly go on that day. And that is what not quitting is, right? I told you guys about boiling those results down into two options. I break my body or across the finish line. That's what not quitting looks like to me. I didn't say I'm going to cross the finish line every time, because I might break my body first. And that's fine. But yeah, on the Georgia Jewel was a perfect example of that this year. It's a 100-mile race in the mountains of North Georgia. I was kind of the pick to win that race. And I had placed second place at it the year before, and I was coming back with a vengeance. We got deep into this thing. We were a little deeper into it than you said, Dan. I think I was about at mile 60, which is, you still got a long ways to go in a 100-miler. You still got 40 miles to go. It was the middle of the night. And what happens when you run these races sometimes is all the blood is being pumped to your extremities, your legs in particular. And so your stomach doesn't have a lot of blood in it, and you have to eat during these races. So your digestion of your food can become really, really painful because your stomach stops working. This doesn't happen every time, but on this particular race, it happened to me, and it's excruciating pain. And I was running out front, first or second place. I don't remember exactly when my stomach kind of started to shut down. And I found myself shortly after laying in the fetal position on the side of some trail in the middle of the night in the mountains, and I couldn't move because it hurt so bad. And as I'm laying there in my headlamp, I see second place go by me. I see third place go by me. I see fourth place go by me, right? And I knew, yeah, victory, the result that I was trying to achieve, was no longer attainable. But my standard is, just like Dan said, to not quit, right? Along with many other things. Not quitting is a foundational standard. There are other standards like integrity, honor, service to your teammates, all this stuff that's composed in the creed. But I got up, got on my feet when my stomach settled down, and I continued mission. And I ended up finishing that race in 5th place, which was way off what I wanted to finish, which was 1st place. But, when I did get up and start moving again, you think, why are you doing this? You can't win. And even maybe, why don't you just cut this trail a little short here? Why don't you just cut some miles off? You're not in the race anymore. You're not running for first anymore. Why don't you just cut this switchback off and finish this thing a little sooner? But you fall back on the standard, right? The standard is integrity. The standard is not quitting. Integrity is essentially doing the right thing when no one's watching. If you guys don't understand that, honor is doing the right thing. Integrity is a little harder than honor. Nobody was watching me out there on the trail, so you have every opportunity to make your life easier and cut the trail. But if you have chosen to live your life to a standard, that's a wonderful thing, man. It's a wonderful thing, but you have to identify your standard. Ultimately, for me, the Bible is my standard, but the Bible's a big book. I've been studying it for over 9 years. I still don't know it all. Don't even close to know it all. So I've really boiled the key parts of that standard down into what I call a creed. I would encourage any of your listeners to develop a creed for themselves that they can go back to when a decision needs to be made. And they can make sure that their decision is in alignment with the moral, ethical, spiritual, whatever principles that are contained within that standard they've written for themselves.
Yeah. Well, you know, what was racing through my mind after that lesson when I was thinking of it was like, these young people in society, in the social media world that we've got in front of us now, is that they're being bombarded with, they have to be more beautiful, they have to be perfect, they have to win everything, they have to have a lot of money, they have to have all these things, or they're failures, right? I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's like, well, if you don't win, you're a loser, right? Or whatever. And it's such a toxic mindset, and it's something that depresses people, right? Because not everybody can win every race, right? But everybody can set their standard and live up to their standard. And it's like, when you said that, I was like walking home or walking back to the barrack, right? And it was like, wow. So if everyone took that mindset shift, then everyone would be happily progressing towards whatever they want, and no one would feel bad about themselves, right? There would be some people that won and some people that didn't win, but they wouldn't have that loser mentality, which I think is just so toxic. And especially for these young kids growing up bombarded with, all these videos and social media, it's tough on them.
At that point, at that point, you're comparing yourself to the standard. You're not comparing yourself to another human being, right? Yeah. And that's a much more healthy thing to do. And by the way, if you don't miss the mark on your standard sometimes, you need to set your standard higher. I miss the mark on mine sometimes, and then that's when I do feel bad. So it's great when you're comparing yourself to a standard and you don't hit it, you don't meet the mark. You feel upset about that, right? But that's much more healthy than comparing yourself to another human being and feeling bad that you're not like that other human being, right? That's a great thought that you had, Dan. I'm going to add that to my curriculum, man.
Well, it was what I realized. And I was telling the guys back in the cabin, I was like, oh my gosh. And because, look, we deal with people who come into treatment and they feel like losers, right? They feel like failures. They feel like they're like, how come I can't, my older brother, he never got into drugs and he's a successful lawyer. They're always comparing themselves to somebody else and not to themselves. And it's like, Dallas worked one-on-one with these guys a lot. And I'm sure it's like the conversation goes something like, hey, look, let's just improve where you are today and try to get better. And let's not worry about what your brother's doing or whatever. And it's like, we're trying to get you better. And let's get you down that path. And I think it's just such an important lesson for people to not compare themselves to each other, but learn how to set the goals for themselves and get them, compare themselves to where they were yesterday or last year or whatever. Dallas, you any experience with this, with working with people that you think that this is relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes up all the time. I feel like most people's negative self-talk, most people's suffering comes directly from a comparison. And I always say, if everyone was 5'5", no one would be tall or short. If everyone was overweight, none of us would be overweight. So it's like the negativity or the judgment or, the we're not good enough only comes from when we compare ourselves to other people. And to what degree does any of the other people matter? So I always just turn it right back to them.
And it's a trap, it's a trap where you can't win because you aren't that other person. You aren't going to have as much money as Warren Buffett. You aren't going to, run as long and fast as Chad Wright, whatever. It's like, that's not real. And we'll talk back to what we were talking about originally, that your purpose, your unique mission and reason for being here and everything. And if you start comparing yourself to other people, like it's just wrong. But, for me, when I was thinking about it, I didn't know what to compare what do I compare it to then? If I don't compare to somebody else, the standard. And it's like, okay, you create a standard and you set it and you're comparing against that. And that was really just a powerful statement for me.
CrossFit was really good for that for me because it has the standard. Here's your standard. And then you know where you are, but you're always just sort of, you could compete. I mean, for me at my age and competing against the guys, I'm never going to be as fast as them or lift as heavy as them. But what is my standard, or what is the woman's standard, or my age demographic standard? It's, you can set it so that it's achievable, but it's also not devastating when you don't reach the standard. I will never be as fast as Dallas, and it is what it is. I mean, he's a fast guy. It's pretty awesome. But I like that mindset because, that's what I have to go into when I go into CrossFit. And Dallas will be like, yeah, it is a little heavy, Ange. It's a lot of reps. You can cut here. You can do this. And I'm like, wait, what? Why would I do that? And so he just reverse psychologies me when I think I can't do it. And then it makes me want to do it even more because I know I have that standard. And although I was looking for him to give me permission to take the easy way out, I know at the end of the day, I'm not going to be happy with myself if I do that. And so, but again, that comes with time and practice. It's not something that's really natural for a lot of people. It just takes like comfort and ease and doing things where you can find and be comfortable with having that standard there, I think.
100%. And by the way, Dallas, I want to come compete against you in a CrossFit WOD sometime. So
let's do it.
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
hope there's not a lot of running. Or you guys
hey, yeah, we'll let Angie design the WOD, and
Yes.
we'll you can submit 3 strengths, I'll submit 3 strengths, and we'll go head to head.
Oh shit. Oh, I just got nervous, but let's do it. That's exciting.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
We have
And
we have a gym too.
Yeah.
We'll broadcast it. We'll broadcast it on some platform, and it's a lot of fun.
We'll
That'd be
fly you
awesome,
out,
dude.
and you'll do it at the gym, and we'll have camera. There'll be a
I got to come out and see you guys, man. I really do.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that challenge. Dallas doesn't feel challenged very often. He just felt challenged right now.
Yeah.
You
That's
are
so
challenged.
good. I love that.
Hey, real quick, I went to a gym I've never been to like a couple days ago, and there was a lot of running, and this chick just kicked my ass, just got me so good. I was just chasing her, and the coach was like, hey, like get her on this last lap. And I was like, dude, if I get this girl on the last lap, I will throw up on her as soon as I get to her. I didn't get to her.
CrossFitters don't traditionally like running, but runners don't traditionally like wall walks. You know what I mean? So
That's so true.
yeah. It's I've gotten really into CrossFit. I say really into it. I probably go 4 or 5 times a week at least.
Nice.
I'm using it to supplement my running, and it's really, really great. And it stokes a lot of competitive spirit within me too, because you know, man, when you go in that CrossFit gym or box or whatever you call it, you just can't help it. You're good. You guys like us, you're gonna look to your left and right, and you're gonna say, "I'm gonna be the first one done here today." You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like its own addiction, you know?
Oh yeah.
It is.
Some
man.
of my biggest
It is.
wins are when I beat Dallas in a WOD. I think it happened twice. And I'm like, yes, I beat Dallas. Look at that. Who'd have thought? Heck yeah.
It is awesome.
Hey, I had one more thing from the proving ground that I wanted to bring up. That was one of those important lessons to me. I had this little book that I brought with me, and I got it right here that I was scribbling in the proving ground. Whenever we were talking, I was taking notes and reflecting on it and stuff like that, which was awesome. But you know, I think we were asking, and we were getting honest, and we were asking deep questions and stuff like that. And Chad, you were vulnerable, and it was incredible. Like I get chills thinking about some of these conversations we had, which is amazing. So thank you for opening yourself up to that, because you know you're a unique person. You've lived a very unique life, and for many of us, we can't conceive of what it's like to be shooting at people in other countries, and you know, having to deal with all that stuff. But I think that we kind of, it was towards the end where we were wrapping up, like, okay, so the Navy SEAL, training and what you had to do to get there, and then the ultra marathon running and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, so I think someone asked, so at what point does it get easy? Like, at what point does it okay, I got this now. Like, it gets easy. Like, is it at 50 miles? Is it 100 miles? And and you said something, I don't know if I want to say it right, but it was like, it doesn't get easier. You just build more capacity. Don't try to make it easy, because you're going to set yourself up for failure, right? And I think that it was like a CrossFit WOD. Like if you go in and that WOD is easy, that's probably not, then you're probably not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? You're supposed to always keep pushing yourself. And so that mindset, again, kind of back to society, they want to take the easy way out, or whatever, the shortcut or whatever. And it's like, that's not the way. It's not the way with recovery. It's not the way with ultra running. It's not the way with a lot of things we do in life, is that it shouldn't be easy, because you should be constantly pushing yourself for growth. And that was like, man, that is so relevant to recovery and life and all these things. And do you remember that conversation, or was it you were just ratting off?
Oh yeah, brother. I mean, yeah, I think that's a societal like a fallacy of the whole self-help culture, and you know that you see either on Instagram or wherever, is there's so many people out there presenting these secrets. I mean, whatever, I'll keep dropping names. Look at this Greg Cardone guy, whatever he is. He freaking telling me he can 10x your life, like for real. I forget the other guy's name, Tony. I don't know. There's a bunch of them out there. These big wigs in this space, and they're trying to tell you that they have some secret to make your life easier. And anytime I hear that, I'm like, well, that's not the objective. The reason that we train, the reason that we push ourselves is never, the objective is never to make life easier. It's to just increase our capacity to endure in life. And that's for me in running. I don't care how much faster I get or how much better I get at running. I'm just going to go faster. The better I get, I'm just going to go faster. And all of a sudden, that 6-minute mile that I'm running, it hurts just as bad as the 8-minute mile I was running 2 years ago. The pain is the same. I just have more capacity to take life on, right? And to pour into others and serve as a team member. And yeah, that's all it is. I appreciate you bringing that up, Dan. That's a solid lesson, man. I don't always remember to share that. So
yeah, it was profound, because you're not supposed to try to make it easy. And I think that's just, we hear it so much in society. And so, and it makes things, it's simple. It's not easy. It's simple because it's just work hard, right? It's stop trying to find the shortcut. Stop trying to find the hack.
Yeah.
Start trying to find the thing that's going to make you lose 20 pounds in 3 days or what, it's just work. That's it.
Man.
Simple.
Yeah. You're wasting energy trying to find the secret.
Right. Right. And that's, and again, like we're a recovery podcast, right? So it's like with recovery, it's the same thing. Like there will be days that aren't easy. There will be days that suck, but if your standard, your goal is to remain, sober, like then you got to get through that. That's part of the process. And that's why I always try to tie it back because, that's what we do. And that's what we're trying to, to teach people that come to the program and stuff like that. And these lessons are just so relevant to the recovery community. It's just like awesome.
Well, I'm honored to be able to come on here and share, man. We covered a lot of stuff on this episode. I hope, you can ask Dan, I don't usually talk this much, but I was so pumped about coming on this show, and I want to make sure we got plenty of content for your listeners to take and apply on the battlefield of life, man. And within their recovery journey. I just love what you guys are doing, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chad. This has been awesome, and I think there's a well full of content in here for everybody. Life is difficult for all of us, so hopefully that they have something to take away from this. And talking to you has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, thank you. You make it very comfortable and easy to have just a great conversation. I appreciate that.
Well, y'all let me know when you're ready for me to come out there y'all in California.
Mm-hmm.
Man, daggone California, man. I haven't been to California since I went to LA about 2 years ago. Boy, that was an experience. Never been there before. But y'all let me know when y'all want me to come, and we'll put it together and we'll have some fun, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that sounds amazing. We'll do a little proving ground out here. You and Dallas can do a wad off, and yeah, that would be amazing.
That'd be awesome. As long as there's not too much regulations. I know how California is. I don't know. There may be too much regulations for me to put on a proving ground around there.
You might be right.
Yeah, you might have to have 17 lawyers review 1,000 pages of documents.
Sorry, I had to get that stab in there.
Oh yeah,
we're glad you did.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, make sure you tell Blake and James and Nathan and Brooke, give them my love. They're such great people. Like these are the 3 of 7 guys, and such an honor meeting them. I still remember these guys, and I think we're on Facebook and stuff. And it's just like such solid people. You put together an amazing team of people.
Well, glory be to God. Thank you for being a part of it, Dan, and I hope to see you again soon, brother.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
All right.
You too,
Love you,
man.
Chad.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Have a great day. Great race.
See you guys.
All right, brother.
Bye.